Okay, there we go. There we go. Now you can hear me. Now you can hear me. There we go. See, that's my fault. Now I know you guys can hear me. All right. See, that's my fault. That's my fault. I was too caught up in the moment. I was watching the baseball game, watching everything else, but we do have volume now, as we do have Ben Ruffino making a guest appearance. Come see. Hey, yo. See, Daddy's having a bad show so far, bud. Blake Schilling, why isn't the volume working? That was on my end. So let me rephrase for what we just said for everyone who's just joining us. We do have a good show in store for you tonight. Chris Penrose, former USC basketball player, is going to be joining us. We're going to be talking some March Madness, also some live in-game reaction. Hayden Travinsky just hit another bomb as he gets his first start at catcher tonight. So that's going to be huge to see how that maintains. And I'm sure what we'll be talking about the most, Max Johnson takes the first team reps today as we open up spring football. So that's a very, very big deal. Yeah, everybody's saying how cute Ben was. But see, the bad thing is he doesn't close the door. Runners on first for Southeastern and a hit out to Sanford that will be the first out of the top of the second inning. Danny says, nice co-host, Blake. Yeah. Always. Normally he doesn't come in during the week, but he comes in on Saturdays, but he came in today. I mean, you got to be careful when they can open the doors. All right, let's do this before we get started. We're going to talk about a lot of Max Johnson. Do us a favor again. I didn't mention this. Hit the like and share. We thank our good partners over at Believe Podcast and our partners over at eBay. So let's pay some bills before we get started. And our good friends over at GM Varnado & Sons. GM Varnado & Sons has faithfully been serving your Denham Springs and Baton Rouge area for over 62 years. With their highly trained technicians, there's absolutely nothing that they can't do. RV repair, big rig overhauls, motorhome chassis, truck repair, routine maintenance, tire rotations, tire sales. No job is too big or too small over at GM. Give them a call today at 225-664-9992. That's 225-664-9992. And tell them Blake Ruffino at AYS sent you on by. And our good friend, Mr. Richie Roche over at Roche's Lawn and Landscape, 225-937-7220. That's 225-937-7220. And tell them your good friend, Mr. Blake Ruffino, sent you on by. Okay, so the big news as we're going to be, watching the baseball game as we're monitoring. Ed Orgeron just, maybe 30 minutes ago told us that Max Johnson took the first team reps. Now, I'm sitting over here on Twitter looking at the simple fact that some people seem to be upset with this. Like, what are you upset with? What are you upset with? I really, really don't understand what people are upset with that Max Johnson took the first team reps, because he should have. Guys, I don't think people and girls, I don't think people fully understand what Max Johnson did in the last two games. And I don't know if some fans completely understand that he is more accomplished already in two starts, than Miles Brennan in 5 seasons. Miles does not deserve, not now, not ever, or I shouldn't say ever, but Miles Brennan does not deserve, as Hayden Travinsky just rifles one down to second base and throws the runner out. So 2 outs in the top of the second. People are asking why people mad. LOL. Jeremiah asked that on Facebook Live. Jeremiah, I had no idea. I guess there's this blind loyalty to Miles Brennan. Now, I went on with Jordy Holberg today, and we got in a big old debate about Miles Brennan starting. Miles Brennan doesn't deserve to start right now. If we're going to call a spade, as we've been talking over the last month, guys, you saw what he looked like in the offseason. You saw the pictures of Miles Brennan being a Popeye's biscuit away from a tight end. So let's not act like this is something new and something normal that we didn't expect. Now, I'm not saying that Miles Brennan won't work his way up to the starter, but do you really believe that Max Johnson's just going to give that position away? No. Do we forget? It's so crazy how quickly we forget what Max Johnson did against Florida. Guys, you beat a ranked Florida team. You beat the SEC East champion in Florida. And then you turn right around and go toe-to-toe with one of the better offenses, not just in the SEC, but in the entire nation in Ole Miss. and you put up 40 plus with a horrendous defense. That defense was horrendous. And a true freshman led you down the field and won you the football game. So I'm not going to poo-poo on Max Johnson starting, and I don't understand why people are so mad that Max Johnson's starting anyway. Everyone enjoying the show, do us a favor, as we lost audio in the beginning. Do us a favor and hit the like and share. Ryan Thibodeau says it's just the first day of spring ball. I get that. And that's another point. Ryan, that's another point. But I think the point of all this is that Miles Brennan doesn't deserve to run out there right now. Like, I get what people say, well, Miles has been here longer, but that doesn't mean anything in the win and loss column. Just because the guy's here for 72 years, like he's Van Halen or whatever that movie was, when the guy was in college for 17 years, doesn't mean anything. Who's going to get you wins? Tigerbait.com on YouTube, Mike Scarborough says, you drank the TJ Finley Kool-Aid. But, hey, did I? Because the way that I understand it is that Ed Orgeron damn near said that Miles Brennan might not even be the second guy, which is crazy in and of itself. And he talked really highly on Garrett Nussmeier. I would not be surprised if Miles Brennan transfers, y'all. I'm being dead honest. Now, like Ryan Thibodeau mentioned right here in the comments, it is an open competition, and you have to give it to Ed Orgeron for doing that. Normally Ed Orgeron would run Miles Brennan out there in some kind of blind loyalty type of situation. But I also think that he's given Jake Peetz the opportunity to say, hey, Jake, who do you want to have the first reps? Do you mean to tell me that Jake Peetz watched the film of last season of all the games and didn't say, hey, let's put Max Johnson in there first? You can't convince me of that because it's just not true. It's just not true. Ed did have a lot to say today in reference to the running back room, so I'm going to put the hashtag #AskBlake in here as we're going to talk about this. LSU's back up to the plate, bottom of the second inning, 4-0 over Southeastern so far. Blake Schilling says, I had to delete Twitter. It's a cesspool. Yeah, it can be. Sam Bacon says, Mad Max, let's go. Jeremiah says he won with less talent around him, and which is a great point. I mentioned that too on Jordy Holberg today. I was like, hey, your number one receiver and number one tight end was out. So all Max Johnson did, he goes, hey, Max Johnson, you guys know the meme that's out there that, hey, I'm just going to – hey, Benjamin. You normally don't come in here this much during a live show. What's gotten into you today? Peekaboo. 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 Tell the people, hey. Wave to them. Say, hey. Peekaboo. Yeah, tell them, hey. Hey, wait, very quickly. Are you surprised that Max Johnson got the first team reps? Okay, you want down? All right. Tell your mommy. Go hang out with mommy. It's Dada's show. You come in on Saturdays. You're my co-host on Saturdays. God, where was I at? Jeremiah Phillips says he won with less talent around him. Yeah, and that's a good point. That's a good point. And you had some guys that were hurt too. Charlie Viator says, I agree, Max has earned it. Yeah, he's earned it. I mean, the simple fact that you can say a true freshman in 2 games is more accomplished than a guy going into his 5th year tells you everything you need to know. Everything that you need to know. So I don't get the what's going on here. Jeremiah also says linebacker and safety play. He talked about that. Ed Orgeron talked about that today, as he said that Sage Ryan is a guy, Matthew Langlois is a guy that LSU is looking to come in and be very good contributors and very big contributors early on. Derek Davis, he spoke highly of Derek Davis, the talented freshman safety. He might start, y'all. He might start as Jordan Thompson strikes out to start the bottom of the second inning. So I think the way that it's going right now spring ball is going to show who the boys from the men are. But Derek Davis from per Ed Orgeron went up against Kayshon Boutte. Now, he said the best wide receiver we have. Well, we know who that is. That's Kayshon Boutte. Went up against Kayshon Boutte in a one-on-one situation, a safety, and beat Kayshon Boutte. And if Kayshon Boutte was out there, I would pretty much assume that Max Johnson was throwing him the football. So you're talking about a true freshman doing that. So I would expect him to get a lot of playing time. Todd Harris is also a guy that a lot of people have poo-pooed on. I've given Todd Harris a little bit of I've come down on him a little bit when times has warranted it, but he's another guy that has a lot of experience that's coming back. One guy, Jeremiah, that we can also talk about is not even strong as Micah Baskerville is off the team currently. You have Mike Jones, that's also in there, and Damone Clark. So you have a lot of good talent there now. Who's gonna really just show out this spring? It's a ground out to second base, and it's gonna be 2 outs in the bottom of the second inning. LSU is still leading 4-0. Sam Bacon says in Nuss they trust. I don't know about that. Nussmeier's not gonna. I shouldn't say is not going to. He's got a lot of work ahead of him if he's going to start for LSU as a true freshman, especially over TJ Finley, especially in front of Max Johnson. That's not going to happen. That's just not going to happen. Unless those guys get hurt, then Garrett Nussmeier, he does have some scramble ability, does need to get – talking about getting somebody's weight up. Blaine Smith says Goodwin will be a beast for LSU, talking about Amari Goodwin, the line drive into left field. That's going to get down. Yep, and it's down. Is that Cruz? Yep, Dylan Cruz hits a double with 2 outs in the bottom of the second inning, runner on second base. Yeah, he is. And Ed talked about the running back position today and basically called out John Emery and Ty Davis Price. In Ed Orgeron's words, this is not my words. I know that we've talked about this, but per Ed Orgeron, in his words, he basically stated, Ty Davis Price, John Emery, pick it up, or you're going to get benched for a freshman. There's no other way around it, and he's not wrong. John Emery's a 5-star from Destrehan. He's got to pick it up. Some of the stuff that John Emery's doing in pass protection and missing the ball and not being able to break tackles, running in between the tackles, he's got to pick some of that stuff up now. And so does Ty Davis Price. Ty Davis Price had a lot of passes thrown to him last year, and he missed them. So those two guys have to have a big spring, and they need to take another step forward if this team is going to be competent going down the stretch in the SEC. What I will tell you today, and what I have been hearing over the last couple of weeks and about a month, LSU is going to get back to establishing the run on offense. I know that it's not going to be like Les Miles type of deal, but they want to get back to more of a 2019. If you remember, like the Florida game in 2019, at one point you had 24 passes, 24 runs. People forget how often LSU ran the football in 2019 and how effectively they were running the football. So in and of itself, they want to get back there. Thibodeau says, hey, Ben, I appreciate that. And Shannon Williams says, too cute. Yeah, he normally doesn't come here during the week. He normally doesn't come in on with us during the show. Taylor Bell says, who has a better bounce-back season, Auburn or LSU? I mean, bounce-back season from what, really? I mean, Auburn had a decent season. I mean, Auburn didn't have a horrendous season. Auburn actually destroyed LSU. So bounce back really from what exactly? I'm going to take LSU because I think that Auburn's got a lot of chaos going around them, but they're also being quiet, and you don't know what a new coaching staff can come in and do for that team. Foul ball by Trey Morgan, as that's going to get out of play. So 3-1 count now with Cruz on second base. So Taylor, in that aspect, I'm going to go ahead and say LSU because I don't know if you bounce back from what, a winning season. You know, as my dog's barking. Dude, we have a lot of distractions today, y'all. My mic was muted to start the show. Ben's been coming in here. We got the dog barking. So hopefully we can get through this show. As Chris Penrose, the former USC basketball player, is going to be joining this show in just a minute. I want to talk some March Madness with him. And we'll continue to talk some baseball and football after we get Chris on out of here. Blaine says Davis was an early enrollee. Sage will definitely be a big competition once he arrives to play safety. Well, he's got a whole 6 months ahead of him and a whole spring underneath him. Look, I'm not saying Sage isn't good. I think he's really, really good. But I think there's something to be said for a guy like Derek Davis who comes in as a early grad, as a midterm enrollee. It's humongous. It's huge. So I don't know. Jamar Jackson says, can't wait to see Stingley and Ricks and the defensive backfield. I think Ed said today that Elias Ricks is battling another injury. Yeah, I thought I heard that. Ryan Thibodeau says Ricks has an injury. It doesn't seem to be serious, but yeah, you're right. And look, during the spring, if a guy has an injury, don't run him out there. You're running him out there for what exactly? I mean, that's the whole point that I fully don't understand. Like people want, let's see what Elias Ricks can do during the spring. For what? This don't mean shit. Like this legitimately doesn't mean anything. Blaine says Morgan is such a tough out. He is, man. He is. Him and Dylan Cruz. Look, people are poo-pooing on Palmieri and all these other people. I know we talked about this last night as Morgan strikes out to end the bottom of the second inning, so we'll go into the top of the third. The Tigers still lead it 4-0 as we go into the third. Let's see. Brian Viator says, what a crazy day in NFL free agency. Yeah, it was. It really, really, really was. It really was. Let me see something here. The Saints, look, every time the Saints, you just feel like that they're just out of it completely. They completely surprise you with everything that they do. Let's see. Chris Penrose is going to be joining us, former USC basketball player, in just a second. Chris, if you can hear me, bud, I see you're ready, but can you turn? I can't message you, and I don't want to email you. I know that you're listening. Can you turn your camera on, my brother? And then we'll get you on in here. There we go. There we go. My man. Let's let Chris get set up before we get to him. Jeremiah Phillips says Sage can play both sides of the field. Yeah, but he's not. He's going to play defense. He's going to play safety. Ryan Thibodeau says should be back in a week or two. Yeah, and don't run him out there. And Malcolm Brown is gone. Yep, sure is. Adam Couture says, has Nikki Fargas been fired? That is the LSU women's basketball coach. No, not yet, but I think it's going to come soon. It's going to come very soon. All right, let's get to our good friend, Mr. Chris Penrose. But before we do that, guys, you got to go see my good friend Mr. John Patton over at Area Home Lending, 225-663-2500. That's 225-663-2500. If you're thinking about buying a new home, saving money on the mortgage that you have now, or even doing that cash out refi, the timing has never been better. Get in touch with Mr. John Patton from Area Home Lending today. And if you mention this show, he will send his team out for a free appraisal. That's 225-663-2500. And for our number one real estate firm in the North Shore, go to team.kw.com. That's team.kw.com. Go meet with one of their great real estate agents today that will put you in the dream home that you've always been wanting. And I know your wife wants one, or your significant other. So give them a call at 985-467-7355. That's 985-467-7355. And tell them your friend, Mr. Blake Ruffino, sent you on by. All right, our good friend, Mr. Chris Penrose, is joining us. Chris, what's going on tonight, my man?
Hey, it's all good here in Southern California. I'm just hanging. How are you doing?
You know, that's the second time that I've had somebody on in 2 weeks that's in the midst of California. We had Orion leave. Now we have you on, and all we have in Louisiana, Chris, is nothing but pollen and just bad weather. Can you just bring some of that weather over here to us, please?
Hey, you know, for Southern California standards, it's a freezing 58 degrees outside right now. So we have our typical bad weather right now.
Well, hey, man, I'll take 58 degrees and chill more than this pollen, because you can hear my sinuses just going crazy. Chris, I want to talk some March Madness. I know we talk a lot of LSU, but I want to talk the entire bracket here, and I greatly appreciate you joining us. Let's just start in the West. I know that your USC Trojans are in the West region. Really, when you look at the West region, what do you see? Are there some upsets there that you think that can happen? And maybe like your USC Trojans, what do you see coming out of the West when we start Thursday, Friday, Saturday?
Well, I mean, Gonzaga is by far where everyone wants to put their money, right? Like Gonzaga, all season long, you've been hearing you take Gonzaga or the field. So when you look at the West, obviously Gonzaga is the number one overall seed. Without a doubt, they're probably the favorite to win the tournament. An upset alert that I kind of like are the UC Santa Barbara Gauchos over the Creighton Blue Jays. I mean, that that is a tough 5-12 matchup there. And if you're always looking for the upsets, the 6-11, 5-12, those are always a really, really tough matchups for those teams. But USC, I think they'll probably end up playing Wichita State. Wichita State started playing pretty strong towards the end of the season. New coach who got a longer term contract, so super happy for him. But I really like that USC Kansas matchup. I think that could be a really fun matchup coming out of the West. And I'm going to pick my Trojans to win that one. But I think that's going to be really fun. That Gonzaga Oklahoma game, if Oklahoma can take care of Missouri, I think that's going to be a really fun game to watch too. I love Lon Kruger. I played against him when I was at SC. He was at Arizona State. Really good coach, very solid, and that'll be a fun game to watch as well.
Well, Chris, let me tell you this: we're doing a poll, or I say a bracket, and the winner of that bracket for the Are You Serious gets a $50 gift card. So let me tell you this: if they do what you tell them to do and they win, I'm going to be an upset cookie, but you best believe that I'm going to do it too. Everything that you're saying tonight is going to be a Chris Penrose bracket. So let me make that very clear. I agree with you. I think Gonzaga, they had a scare last week, but I think that they can run through it. They're a really scary team. So we'll see how that goes on. But I think that I'm not just saying this because of you, but I think USC could definitely be a dark horse in that region. Let's go. I'm gonna leave the East for last because we do have this is an LSU show mainly, so I gotta wait until last. But let's go over to the South. I mean, Baylor seems untouchable. They have a really good team. What are some matchups there that you're looking forward to this weekend in that South region?
So, Texas Tech is always kind of a fun team for me. I love Coach Beard. I think, you can never count him out. No matter what, you can never count out Texas Tech. So I like them beating Utah State and then, having a fun little 6-3 matchup with Arkansas. I think Texas Tech might take care of Arkansas. I know there's a lot of people out there that actually have Arkansas going to the Final Four. My kind of thought is, am I talking about the right bracket for you right now? Yeah, we're in the South, right? Yeah.
Yeah, we're in the South. You're talking about the right bracket. Yeah. I'm just sitting over here looking at it as you're breaking it down because I'm literally writing notes. I don't want people to see like me writing notes and cheating. So, but continue, my man.
And the Villanova-Winthrop matchup is also interesting because Villanova, doesn't have their point guard, kind of the heart and soul of their team. That could be an interesting 5-12 matchup upset. I like Purdue to go face Baylor, but I think Baylor is going to come out of that, play Ohio State, kind of a boring 1-2 out of the South for me. But I actually think Ohio State's probably going to make it to the Final Four. I think they're playing really well right now. Ohio State and Illinois are two teams that I just think are playing the best basketball. And those are two teams that I think will probably end up in the Final Four.
And I know you talked about Texas Tech. Look, Texas Tech played LSU in the Big 12 SEC showdown, and LSU was dominating that game really from start to finish. And there at the end, they just started getting hot. And Texas Tech is a team that I think, honestly, Chris, is a sleeper because they can be extremely streaky. LSU was up by 15 at one point, and all of a sudden I go, make me a little ham sandwich, and I come back and they're up by 2. It's crazy how Chris Beard and their team can get really hot. Let me ask you something about just that bracket. Arkansas is in the SEC, but they go up against Colgate. Arkansas has been struggling of late. LSU beat them in the SEC tournament. Do you think that a Colgate and a 14 seed could pull off an upset and beat an Arkansas?
I mean, never say never, number one, especially in March. Crazy things happen. I just think Arkansas has a little too much firepower. I can see that being a close game. I can see that being on upset alert in the last 4 minutes. But I think Arkansas will probably take care of business.
You might be right. I just don't like Arkansas as we say down here in Louisiana. Before we get to the other regions, Chris, Craig Schilling, our good friend, he says, #Ask Chris, and we have some other questions for you. He says, of all this, and we might just say this for last, but your biggest Cinderella pick. I know that you've mentioned some, but is there one team that you're really rooting for as your Cinderella?
There's some – San Diego State. So I'm from San Diego. I was an Aztec all growing up. I watched them when they, couldn't win a conference game to save their lives. And then, Coach Fisher comes in and 1997 when I'm in 7th grade, and basically just takes over the program and takes it from one of the worst college basketball programs in all of the United States to, over the past few years, probably the best college basketball program in California, which is pretty amazing. They have a ton of senior leadership. Jordan Shackle, Matt Mitchell, their point guard Trey Pulliam. They got a great transfer from Cal State Northridge, and Terrell Gomez. They just have a lot of guys that have been there before, a lot of senior leadership. Coach Dutcher is a phenomenal coach and knows how to game plan really well. It's teams like that have that experience and good coaching. They play good defense. That's the kind of team that can go pretty far and beat some teams they probably shouldn't beat.
And I agree with you there, because I think that they're going to beat Syracuse, and then I think that they're going to beat West Virginia. I'm right there with you. I think that that's a very good matchup for San Diego State. Now, what do they do if they get to a Houston? I don't know that, but I think that they can at least get to Houston and make that game very competitive. So out of that bracket, I know that we talk in the Midwest bracket, you have San Diego State, but you have some. Look, I think Illinois is the best team in the country, in my personal opinion. I picked them to win it. I think they're the hottest team. Talking about San Diego State, is Illinois just going to be that team in the bracket this year, or am I just going crazy?
I think they are. Watching them play against Ohio State in that Big Ten championship game. I mean, that was the second best game of the day. Second to the LSU game, LSU Alabama game, which was one of the best college basketball games I think I've ever seen. But Illinois just, if you talk about a bunch of guys that just play well together, and it feels like they played together their entire lives. The way they move the ball, the way they help each other on defense and can recover back to shooters, they play very well together. And that makes them a very, very dangerous team. I actually really like the idea of an Illinois-Oklahoma State matchup. Cade Cunningham going against that Illini team. I think that could be a lot of fun. Oklahoma State is going to be one of those upset alert teams playing the Flames, the Liberty. But I think that could be a really fun matchup. And then I just think Illinois-Houston makes the most sense in the Elite Eight, with Illinois winning that game and going on to the Final Four.
That would be a really fun. That's a game that I'm kind of rooting for the most. That might just be me. I mean, outside of LSU, Chris, we're going to probably spend most of our time here. Well, let's go over to the East, because we have a lot of questions in here for you. Let's just fire it off here. From Alex Keem on YouTube, he says, #Ask Chris, does LSU even have a chance to beat Michigan? But let's back up a little very quickly. They got St. Bonaventure that I think, they have nothing but juniors, a lot of experience, have literally start 4 guards and a center that's 6'10". Give the Louisiana people some hope here. What do you think about LSU? Do you think that they can make a little bit of a run? They have some talent, but they've just been so inconsistent so far this season.
They have been inconsistent, but they have that momentum going right now, right? And that's what everybody wants and everybody needs going into the tournament, right? They had a great run in the SEC tournament, made it to the championship game, came up a little short against a very good Alabama team. But you ride that emotion and that momentum into the tournament, and you can make some noise and make things happen.
Yeah, I completely agree with you there. And look, this team, the only problem with LSU is it's 2 steps forward, 77 steps back, right? Like they'll beat a Tennessee, they'll go toe to toe with an Alabama, and then all of a sudden they just poo-poo the bed. Look, I do think that they could make a run. I don't know if they can get past Michigan, but Michigan has some players out. So we'll see. I want that LSU Alabama matchup for a lot of reasons that I can't say on air. But we'll just leave it there. In the East, I mean, I know Michigan's very talented, but is there another team in the East that you're really looking into and saying that this team could make a run?
I like Florida State. I actually, in my bracket, spoiler alert, I got Florida State going to the Final Four. I just think they match up. I think they match up well with a lot of teams. If you look at where they go, I don't think UNC Greensboro has a chance. I actually think Georgetown's going to upset Colorado, so you have a 12-4 Georgetown-Florida State matchup. Really like Florida State there. And then I think Florida State matches up well against Michigan. Like you said, Michigan has some people out. I think Florida State's athletic enough. Hamilton's just a fantastic coach, and they'll get up and down. They'll play defense. They'll hit threes. And I think that they'll probably beat Michigan. And then, I think they're going to match up with either a Texas or a UConn coming out of that other side of the bracket. And I have Florida State, Texas with Florida State going to the Final Four. I don't know why, but that's what I'm feeling.
I have LSU losing in one bracket. I have LSU losing to Florida State. I'm right there with you. I think that they're one of the hotter teams. Also in that bracket is Alabama. And as much as I hate to say it, and I don't want to say it, and we just don't like them, we have to acknowledge what they've done. They have a lot of shooters. They have some big guys that can get a lot of rebounds. Their offensive rebounding game is just extremely impressive. I think they had, 21 in the SEC championship game versus LSU. Is that another team? I don't want to say that Alabama's ever going to surprise anybody. I mean, they're a 2 seed, but is that a team that you think with the shooters that they have could get on the streak and just be unstoppable?
Yeah, I mean, anyone who has shooters like that can be unstoppable, but anyone who shoots a lot like that can also go cold. And, I like UConn versus Alabama, and I think UConn, I saw them play against USC early in the year, and I think they had, one of their better players out. I mean, those guys can play defense, and, if they can lock down Alabama and they go cold, especially from the three, and UConn can box out, keep them off the glass, that's a tough matchup coming out of a win against Iona for Alabama, and I think UConn might knock them off. Yeah, yeah, I think UConn will knock them off, but we'll see what happens.
And it's funny you say that, because if Alabama doesn't have the 21 offensive rebounds in that SEC championship game versus LSU, I mean, look, they did not shoot the ball great from three. I mean, they were really cold, and LSU just kind of gave that game away. Chris, this is an amazing question from our friend, Mr. Ryan Thibodeau. He says, #ask Chris, how would being in one city help a lower seed, like a 6th or higher, maybe pull an upset? Do you think that everybody being in one location, because that was actually a question I was going to ask you, do you think that this is going to be better for Cinderellas, or does this make the top seeds even more relevant? I mean, we don't really know. We've never seen this, but what do you think?
It's interesting. I've kind of gone back and forth on this, because I remember my senior year, we went to the tournament. We flew to Spokane, and we played Friday night against Arkansas. And so we left Thursday night, got there, and then we played Arkansas, beat them on Friday, and then we played Kevin Durant in Texas, beat them on Sunday. And it was actually really nice to fly back to LA and kind of sleep in our own bed for a couple of days, have the familiarity of, practicing in our gym at the Galen Center, and then, hopping on a plane, going back east on, I think it was that Wednesday, to play North Carolina in the Sweet 16. That was good. I don't know what it's like to, these kids are going to be sitting in the same hotel room for, a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, who knows? So I'm not quite sure who that's going to help. If that's going to help, a younger team kind of, continue to have that familiarity and not go back and forth. Is it going to help an older team that can just kind of lock down in their rooms and just keep their eye on the prize? It's a great question, and I just don't know. I just don't know who that's going to help more, but it is going to be very interesting to see if it in fact does help teams. I mean, we could see tons and tons of upsets, and we could see a bunch of, inexperienced teams all of a sudden, go far in the tournament, but we just don't know if that's going to happen.
Yeah, and we heard from Will Wade today, and he said that everybody's been in their room. They bring food to you. They knock on the door. They literally leave it at the door, and when they knock, and he's got communication with his players, but he hasn't seen them, Chris. Like, this is I get this, but I get that the NBA did this, but this is college, man. Like, at some point, I mean, I like what they're doing, but it's like, man, you're going to keep somebody in a hotel room on the first floor for 4 weeks, a college kid in Indianapolis? Man, that ain't going to happen, man. It ain't going to happen long before somebody trickles out and something happens. But we'll have to wait to see. Chris, last question. You've been fantastic, and we'll get you out of here. I just got done watching Last Chance U. Have you watched Last Chance U since it was out there in California with ELAC?
No, but it's on my list. It's on my very long list of shows to watch.
I'm a football guy, played it collegiately. I mean, we're a big, football podcast. It was better than the football ones, in my opinion. It was sensational. So I didn't know if you knew anything about ELAC being on there on the West Coast. So I had to ask because it was really fantastic.
I did see one quote from it that I thought was fantastic, and it was something to the fact of, a lot of people ask why you don't cut a kid for being a head case or for not for popping off at the coach or something. But, a good coach doesn't just cut a kid because of that, because you don't know what's going to happen to him. You try to help the kid and develop the kid and keep him in the program to try to make him not only a better player, but a better person. And, I just love stories like that with coaches who, they're not just there to make the kid a better player. They're there to help them grow as a person and to help them exceed, past basketball. And I love stories like that. And, we need more coaches like that.
Yeah, Joe Hampton is the player that you're talking about. The coaching job that was done there is probably one of the better coaching jobs I've ever seen. It's definitely a much watch, brother. It's definitely a much watch. But look, you've been fantastic. I'm literally going to, I've written a lot of stuff down here, but I'm going to go back and your bracket's going to be my bracket. So if we win it, okay, we're going to split a $50 gift card, but I really appreciate that. And Chris, tell everybody where they can find you and your podcast and everything that you're doing, my man.
Yeah, you can find my podcast. It's Believe, BLEAV, UFC basketball on the Believe Podcast Network. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram, same handle, C Penrose 1 0.
Awesome, brother. You've been fantastic, and we enjoyed it, and we'll have to bring you back on soon.
I would love it. Thanks for having me.
That's Mr. Chris Penrose, our good friend, and you guys got to go follow him. I really enjoy all of his stuff. Okay, let's do this. Let's get over to it. Let's pay some bills around here. We got a lot of LSU stuff that we want to talk about. Guys, go see my good friend, Mr. Ernie Drake, over at the Drake Law Firm, personal injury, criminal defense, real estate, and successions. There's nothing that they can't do. Tell them Blake Ruffino sent you by, and they will definitely give you a discount. Go see him in downtown Ponchatoula. Again, that's personal injury, criminal defense, real estate, and successions. And tell them Blake Ruffino at AYS sent you on by. Look, LSU gave up a bomb to Southeastern. It's 4-3 in the bottom of the third. Runner on second, one out. Usually it's like this during the I always say this. I always say that I'm not going to go live during an LSU athletic event, and I always do, but oh well. I mean, it's fun. Brandon Reese says, #Ask Blake, do you think the Saints can turn around the trade Rinston for Russell Wilson? No, I don't think at this point they will. Guys, I just don't see it right now. I don't see Russell Wilson coming to New Orleans. Now, it's getting a little bit slimmer on the teams that Russell Wilson said that he'd go play for. I mean, at this point, you don't have Dallas, you don't have Chicago. You really just have the Saints and the Seahawks. And look, the Seahawks seem to be a little dysfunctional right now. So I don't know if the Saints really have the draft capital or the capital to get Russell Wilson. It's going to take a lot. The Saints would have to go full-fledged out for Russell Wilson. So I don't know if they have that, unless Seattle takes a little bit less for Russ, right? I mean, if he really wants out, they're going to have to take less. If it's definitely going to be the Saints, I mean, you're talking about 2 first-round picks, maybe a mid-round pick and a player. And I don't know if do the Saints have that kind of capital? Yes, but I don't know if you give up that kind of capital right now. I'm not sure. Jacob Cole says, Ask Blake, I just jumped in on the show. You may have covered this already. Is LSU looking for a safety in the transfer portal? Jacob, that's a great question. We've been talking about that for a couple of weeks, and everybody called me crazy. Yes, I do think that they'll look for a safety in the transfer portal. Unless somebody or something comes up where what it constitutes as Sanford grounds out to first base, so 2 outs in the bottom of the third, I do think that they will look for a safety if it warrants it. I think that that's on the number one position. I also think center is another position that they need to look for. If a center gets in the transfer portal, look, Liam Shanahan goes down, you don't have a center. And I know that you can talk about some other guys that could possibly play that position, but possibly playing and actually playing is not what you want to see from a center. Guys, 56 this year, and normally it hovers around 60%. When a team loses a center due to injury or whatever, the following week that team loses. You lose Lloyd Cushenberry. The next game, literally the next game that you play is against Mississippi State, and you lose. So I would like for LSU, if possible, to look for a center. And yes, I'm saying that with a little bit of bias because I'm a former center, but still, as Hayden Travinski's up 1-0 count and he takes another ball, that kid can hit, man. David says, do us a favor, too, guys. Hit the like and share. I wanted to get the bracketology in. We're going to probably have to stop going live during LSU athletic games. I love it, and I know people love it. A lot of people listen to the podcast, the audio version, after the next day, but still. David says, Coach O said he may need to move a corner to safety, so maybe he wants a safety in a transfer portal. Yeah, if he can't get one, he's going to have to move somebody. There has been some talk that maybe a Derek Stingley might want to move. They might want to move him back there. Durante Jones, I don't know about that. You can't be putting Derek Stingley, your best corner, back at safety. You just can't do that, man. Look, Jay Ward. I'm going to say this again. I think Jay Ward was the outside of Max Johnson had the best 3-game stretch to end the season for LSU than anybody. I mean, the pick, the multiple or the pick six, the couple interceptions that he had. If you remember, he launched the ball out against the player at Arkansas that forced the field goal, and then all of a sudden, Arkansas lines up for the field goal and he blocks it. So that kid really, 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 I thought came on. Ryan Thibodeau says the only backup center is Hines, and look, Chasen Hines is not a center. He's too big. He's a guard. He is not a center. I know that they experimented with that. I promise you, Chasen Hines will never play center at LSU. And if he does, it's a cold day in football hell. If Chasen Hines is snapping the football, it's a cold day in hell. I will lose my absolute shit if Chasen Hines is a center. Let him play guard. Let him play guard. He's a good guard. Please, sweet baby Jesus, don't put that kid at center. He's not one. Guys, I mean, I'm a bigger guy, but I'm not a big guy. Centers you got to be mobile. Let's see. David says Jay Ward as a safety would be a very good move. I agree with that one. I like that one. Ryan Thibodeau says Jay Ward can play the nickel. I also like that too. I mean, look, Jay Ward can ball now. Jeremiah Phillips says, yeah, Jay Ward coming off of an injury. Yeah, a little bit. But, I mean, he played the last 2 games. He had a pick 6 against Ole Miss, and we just talked about what he had. Outside of Max Johnson and maybe Kayshon Boutte, but Kayshon Boutte, I mean, yes, you can say that. He exploded against Ole Miss, but Jay Ward legitimately won you a game at Arkansas, okay? Like, he single-handedly won you a game down the end of the stretch. God, Cade Beloso, man, as he takes a swinging strike. Cade's been struggling, y'all. I like the kid, but he's absolutely been struggling. Jacob Cole says, please, sweet baby Jesus, don't move Stingley to safety. He's too good at corner. Yeah, I agree with that. And some people have talked about that inside LSU, but you can't do that. It's Cade Beloso. This might be trouble now. Hits one behind third base. This is going to be trouble. Oh, and it drops in. A run's going to score. Travinski gets in a rundown, and he's out. But a run will score. It will make it 5-3 to get out of the bottom of the third. Cade Beloso struggles, but hey, you know what? He gets an RBI. That kid's been struggling. All right, let's get a couple more. We'll get out of here. Brandon Reese says, #AskBlake. I saw Chicago tried and failed for Wilson. They also tried for Winston, too. I think 2 first-round picks and a second-round pick seems fair for both sides. Not for a potentially first-ballot Hall of Famer. They're going to ask the House. It's going to take 2 first-rounders, that second-round pick, and a player like a Mike Thomas. It's going to take that. No questions asked. None. And they'll pay it. Guys, look what Matt Stafford garnered to go to the Rams. You think that the Seahawks aren't going to ask for more than Matt freaking Stafford? Come on, bro. Derek says, what is this nonsense about Stingley to safety? Some people have talked about it. He's not moving to safety. It's just talked about. He's not moving to safety. And you know why he's not moving to safety? Because of guys like Derek Davis, Sage Ryan. He's not moving. Todd Harris. All right, last question. Dre Jenkins from Jeremiah Phillips says Dre Jenkins, wide receiver 2. Yeah, absolutely. He really finished the season out strong. Derek says Wilson would command at least 3 first. Stafford got 2, quite possibly. And look, I'm going to be honest. I think Russell Wilson's fantastic. You can't give up 3 first-round picks, y'all. You just can't do it. I'm sorry, but you just can't do it. I mean, you will cripple your franchise. You will cripple your franchise. So, all right, guys, let's get out of here. Let's finish watching this LSU baseball game. We got to stop going live during LSU athletics. I might make an executive decision. But then, you know what? They'll play one, and I'll fire it up. But until then, guys, we will see y'all tomorrow, and y'all have a good night. Peace out, guys.